Hi, everyone. Erev Tov. I am Marc Margolius. I'm a fellow BJ member and Rabbi with the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. And this is the first in a short two-part series on, Joyce, you had the title. I don't have the title in front of me, but got it.
Cultivating compassion in a time of Teshuvah.
Yeah, that's what I think we're doing. That's great. That's the goal. So as you know, we are actually tonight entering into the 16th of the month of Elul. So we're coming down the home stretch now in the month of Elul towards the Yamim Noraim. And so the intent for the next hour and a quarter is to engage in a mixture of a little bit of text study, a little bit of journaling or reflection, and an opportunity for us to engage in some mindfulness practice together, some Jewish mindfulness meditation practice based on the text and the reflections that we're going to be engaging in. So I hope that's helpful. If something comes up or you have a question, I'd like this to be in the parts where we're not in meditation. I'd love for this to be as interactive as possible. So please feel free to raise your hand or put in a question or comment in the chat box. Certainly can help people feel more connected and more engaged. So I'm very happy for you to provide a running commentary or Rashi when I'm speaking or respond to questions. And I guess it's a fairly large group, so might be a little bit tricky to unmute, but let's see how things go, if that's okay. I'm going to put in the chat a link to the document that I am sharing, which I'll probably put in several times so that people have access to it. I'm going to share my screen. As I said, I just want to invite us to use this time to really enter into the themes of some of the core themes of the Yamim Noraim. And it may or may not be challenging to the sense you have of these holidays or what we're supposed to be doing. And feel free to share that as well if you find this new or maybe uncomfortable or just not what you're expecting. So we'll get right into it. I'm going to share my screen and share this text. And once again, put it in the chat one more time for now. Thanks, Joyce, for monitoring everything. Okay. So the theme is cultivating compassion. And one of the key verses, biblical verses, who came particularly for Rosh Hashanah, is this verse from Psalm 47, verse 6. Allah Elohim b'Torah, Adonai b'kol shofar. It comes up in the liturgy, and as we'll see in a moment, it provides kind of a key way for us to understand the meaning of the shofar. So the verse is in two clauses. Allah Elohim b'Torah. Elohim, God, goes up b'Torah. Now, in Jewish tradition, the rabbinic understanding of this particular name of God is that it's associated with the quality of deen or judgment. So the first half of the verse is about this facet or this aspect of God, Elohim, which ascends b'Torah, usually translated here as an acclamation, in the truah and the sound of the shofar. The second half of the verse, second clause, Adonai b'kol shofar. Yud He Vav He, Adonai, which in rabbinic tradition is associated with the divine quality or midah of rachamim, or compassion, in the blast of the shofar. So we have right away in this, implicit in this verse, two qualities of the divine, two divine qualities, both of which are important and significant in this, particularly at this time of year. Elohim, deen, judgment, discernment, we might say. That's in the truah. And then Yud He Vav He, it's followed by, sequentially, Yud He Vav He, compassion in the sound of the shofar. So here, compassion has kind of the last word, but we begin with Din. So here's we're going to be looking at two classic midrashim interpreting that particular psalm. The Hebrews here, the original Hebrews here, for those who feel comfortable with it, but we're going to work with the translation. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi Nachman, son of Rabbi Nachman, opened and said, God ascends in acclamation, Allah Elohim b'Turah, Yud He Vav He in the Kol Shofar. In the moment when the Holy Blessed One sits on the throne of judgment, God ascends with judgment. What happens? God ascends with acclamation at the time when Israel takes their shofar out and sounds them before the Holy Blessed One. God stands up from the throne of judgment and sits on the throne of mercy, as it says Adonai in the call of the shofar. And they are filled with mercy. They are filled with rachamim. It's actually here in the Hebrew, umitmale alechem rachamim. They are filled with rachamim. It's a beautiful imagery. It's as if they were vessels full of rachamim, umirachem alehem, and God has compassion as rachamim on them, and switches their treatment from the attribute of judgment, from midat hadin, the rachamim, to the attribute of rachamim, mercy or compassion. When? In the 7th month. Matai, b'chodesh hashvi'i. So, first midrash here is teaching us that the sound of the shofar itself is a kind of lever that shifts the gears, the divine gears, as it were, from judgment and transforms it into rachamim, into compassion. So that's the first of the two. Both of these are from Vayikra Rabbah. Second is this. Rabbi Berechia Patach, Rabbi Berechia opens and says, Tiku b'chodesh shofar, blow the shofar on the new moon, Bakesa, on the covered moon for the festival day. That's Psalm 81. Oops, sorry. Bakesa liyom chagenu, on the covered moon for our festival day. Which month has a new moon that is covered and has a festival, and its festival is on the day of the new moon? You only find this in the month of Tishrei. In other words, just to pause here for a second, most of the Chagim, of course, don't take place on Rosh Chodesh. They take place Pesach, Sukkot, not Shavuot, but Pesach and Sukkot, as among the Shlosh Regalim, the pilgrimage holidays, occur on the full moon, in the midst of the moon. But what's a moon? What's a holiday that happens in a month when the moon is covered? That is just the beginning of the month, only in the month of Tishrei. On this month, rejuvenate your deeds with the shofar. On this month, improve or beautify, shapru, your deeds. The Holy One of Blessed says to Israel, if you have improved your deeds, I will surely do this. I will surely do like for you. Just like the shofar takes an air on this side and releases it on that side, so too will I stand up from the throne of justice and sit on the throne of mercy and reverse the trait of justice for you into the trait of mercy. When? In the 7th month. Thanks to Joyce for continuing to put the link there for people who are joining us now. So we have from those two midrashim this really fundamental message, I think, that although we think about the Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, as very solemn days, days of judgment, it's not that there isn't judgment, but there is this movement that we are meant to engage in through a process that involves the shofar, that wakes us up, that moves us from this inner trait or quality or characteristic of Din, of making distinction, of judgment, and shifts us into a place of greater compassion, of greater rachamim for ourselves and others. And this culminates, of course, on Yom Kippur. It's on Yom Kippur. But according to this, it happens on Rosh Hashanah itself, when we blow the shofar. That is a signal, that is a transition point when we blow the shofar. One of the things, I go back to sharing this just for a second, just because I think it's such a beautiful kind of wordplay here. On this month, rejuvenate your deeds with the shofar. On this month, improve or beautify, shapru your deeds. So this, there's a, not clear that the word shofar comes from the same root here as the verb shapru, but there seems to be a play here that the shofar itself, the name of the shofar, as I am understanding it from this, is an invitation to us to lift up, to elevate, to beautify, to make whole our deeds in some way. In other words, when we hear the sound of the shofar, it's not so much kind of a voice that's castigating us. It's more a reminder to transform our deeds in some way. And so the God here says to the people, in this sense, if you have done so, I will do likewise. And then it has this imagery about how the shofar receives air from the narrow end and releases it on the other side, and makes the connection between the air entering the shofar from its narrow mouthpiece and coming out the other end, the larger end of the shofar. There's a direct connection here the Midrash is making between the kisei of the throne, the seat of Din, the place of narrowness, and the movement through that to the larger opening of the shofar at the end of the shofar, which connotes kisei rachamim, the throne of mercy. And so there is this process of transforming Din into compassion here in the seventh month. Questions about those midrashim, and then I'm going to invite you to do a little bit of reflecting and maybe a little bit of journaling, and then we will shift into some meditation practice for a bit. Yeah, Sandy.
I was just going to ask you, how do you see the relationship between being compassionate and being able to forgive?
It's an excellent question. Okay, so are we talking about forgiveness? Are we talking about compassion here? I think we're talking about, I think here it's not quite, it's close to, but not exactly the same as forgiveness, which has, of course, other verbs associated, like mechila. But we're talking about cultivating a state of being that is conducive to the possibility of forgiveness, of release, of letting go of resentments and vindictiveness and grudges, etc. And I guess what I wanted to point out, many of you may already know this, that the word rachamim itself, which is the one we're focusing on today, is connected to the word rechem, which means womb. This is a womb-like awareness, an awareness of being enveloped and held and safe and nourished. And I guess what I'm just throwing out for our, collective reflection is how having a sense of being in a womb-like state, or being a womb that is able to hold and nurture ourselves or others, may be conducive to the process of softening our grip on resentments, grudges, and judgments about ourselves and others. Which is not to say that which is, we're going to move into another set of texts a little bit later that may be relevant to the question. But it's conducive to the possibility of not being imprisoned by or in the grip of past transgressions that we have committed or that others have committed towards us. I hope that might be helpful. Anyone else, feel free to raise your hand and unmute. And if not, then I'm going to invite us to do a couple of minutes of reflection or journaling here. I'll go back to the screen share for a sec. Okay. So there are 3 questions here, and I want to invite you, if you need a moment, to go get some paper and a writing implement, or maybe you have it handy, or if you prefer to use your device to do any journaling or writing here and open a document for yourself. And there are 3 prompts. One of these may speak to you more than the others, but I just want to invite us to take maybe the next 5 minutes to sit with these questions and reflect on them, and maybe jot down some thoughts or observations. It might be helpful to do that by through a writing exercise. So the first is, we've read this midrash about God shifting and moving from one seat to another, from Din to Rachamim. So consider for a moment the transition that happens for you, and I'll do the same for myself, when I'm in a place of judgment or blame, or cause seeking. How much time does it take usually to move from that place to a place of compassion or empathy or connection for yourself or for others? And maybe want to observe whether that shift happens more readily or more easily or more quickly when it has to do with applying judgment towards others. Maybe it's easier for you to move to a place of compassion for others. Maybe it's easier for you to move to a place of compassion for yourself. So that's one question. Another is maybe a little bit more specific, which is if we think about the covering of the moon. 2 weeks ago, we were just coming into the month of Elul. Of course, on Rosh Chodesh, the moon is pretty much covered except for one little sliver. So I'm suggesting here that the movement over the course of Elul is also from Din, from a place of covering. You might also consider it as kind of a hardening or some kind of shielding of the heart, representing a resentment or a judgment. Is there a covering over your heart, a hardening of your heart right now towards someone else or towards yourself that you might begin to lift away? Just as the moon has been in the process of being uncovered over the course of the month of Elul until now, and over the weekend last night it was completely uncovered on the 15th of the month of Elul. So I invite you to consider and maybe jot down, without doing anything about it right now, what's a current resentment, current judgment that is maybe closing your heart off to others or yourself. And then third, which is more kind of a reflection question, how might you understand that resentment, the Din, the judgment itself, as an inhalation or constriction, the narrow part of the shofar, serving as a starting point for the process of releasing or exhaling, blowing into the shofar, so that when it comes out the other end, it's an expression of rachamim. If we're understanding the opening of the shofar as Din and the other opening, the larger opening, as rachamim, can we not criticize ourselves or be judgmental, judge the judgment, that is? Can we recognize the judgment as serving a purpose recognizing the role of Dean, and even maybe saying, thank you, I'm glad I have this judgment. Now I can begin to transform it. And maybe in this way I can grow a little bit in Rachamim. So let's just take a few minutes right now. If you'd like to just sit with those questions for a few minutes, that's fine too. If you'd like to express yourself in writing, that's fine too. Some of you may like to doodle or express yourself creatively in other ways. Just see if any of this is resonating with you right now. How do we move from Deen to Rachamim? What's our starting point? We'll take 3 more minutes and I'll bring us back with a bell. Just taking 1 more minute for reflection on these questions. Just letting the question percolate a little bit, marinating with the questions. So let's come back. And just before we move into a little bit of meditation, I see your question, Rick, which is a really, really nice question. Does the 7-month period of the shift from Deen to Rahmanis relate to the Musar practice of personal character cleaning during the counting of the Omer? 7 months prior to the shifting, what is the calendar catalyst if one exists to plant the seed of softening? So beautifully put, Rick. Thank you. So it is, I think, we have a kind of, I think it's biannual, twice a year or every other year. Anyway, we have a similar process twice a year, very much around Pesach and around this time of year, 6 months apart. And thank you for bringing the attention to the to the Omer period, which just has, I think, some similarities, especially in the movement from constriction at Mitzrayim, leaving Mitzrayim at Pesach, and moving from that to, if we think about the Midot during the Omer as kind of a river of transformation, it empties out when we get to the final Sphira in the 7th week of the Omer, the Sphira of Malchut or Shekhinah, which is kind of the mouth of the river. We move into the world of words and divine expression through speech and Shavuot. So in some sense, I think we can make a comparison between that process during the Omer of moving from narrowness to a wide, to the mouth of the river, to the process that I'm suggesting here of moving from the narrow opening of the shofar. I happen to have the shofar's over there. The narrow opening of the shofar to the wider end of the shofar, and moving through that. And in a moment, I want to invite us a little bit into a practice of experiencing or imagining ourselves as a shofar.
Yosef has a question.
Oh, thanks, Yosef. Please.
Yosef, we need you to unmute.
Oh.
Yeah, this is just a comment. The sound of the shofar reflecting also the human condition altogether. We start our life with complete and wholeness, tekiah, no break. And then it goes through a shivarim. And we are breaking down and we are crying for our condition in life. And as time goes by, following that, it comes back again to tekiah, to completion, to some kind of redemption. And I think it's very worthwhile to reflect on that too, because that's the comment about the shofar sound. Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Tekiah, shivarim, and tekiah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you, Marjorie, for reminding me that biannual can mean either. So let us move a little bit into some meditation practice. And we're just going to begin. I don't know, I'm assuming many of you have had some experience with mindfulness meditation, but you don't need any experience for this. We're just going to, for the first part of this meditation, I want to invite people to bring special attention to the moment when actually we move away from our intention, and to notice our habitual reaction when we wake up and become aware that we have drifted away from our intention. So the basics of the practice are we establish a kavanah, an intention. And in this, what we're intending to do is bring our focus to a particular anchor. And I'm going to offer a few different anchors. One can be the breath, just the experience of receiving the inhalation and noticing the process of the breath moving through us and back out through the exhalation. You could also, but you might choose as an anchor your physical sensations, how you are in your body, the temperature in the room, the ambient sounds in the space around you right now. For some people, it might be the process of thoughts, of noticing the fountain, the mind as a kind of fountain that's generating thoughts that arise one after another. That might be a little bit more challenging. It might be easiest to stay with physical sensations or with the breath, but feel free to choose an anchor for yourself. So I'm inviting you right now just to find a position. If you want to readjust yourself in your position on your seat, you might be on a cushion or a sofa. So consciously, intentionally taking your place. And if it's comfortable and for you to do so, you can place the soles of your feet on the floor and notice the sensation of the contact of your feet against the floor, feeling the support of the chair, and pressing the crown of the head up towards the ceiling, up towards the sky, up towards the heavens, towards the Shamayim, so that we really are become like a sulam, like a ladder connecting heaven and earth, experiencing our body that way, and You can rest your hands in your lap in whatever way feels comfortable for you. You can fold them in your lap. You can place your hands with your on top of your thighs facing down, or if you're comfortable with them facing up. Just want to be comfortable, but awake and alert. Not so easy in the evening, at the end of the day. And that's why we want to have a posture that has some dignity, and we're not slouched over. And choose your intention for practice, whether it is to your kavanah, your intention. I'm going to set my intention to become aware of each breath as it arises. As I inhale, as I take it into my lungs and my belly, and as the breath passes back out through the exhalation. And then again, you might choose, as I said, physical sensation, investigating with curiosity, without judgment, the state of your body right now. You might notice softness of the carpet under your feet, the wood, the solidity of the wood, whatever you're sitting on. You might notice the texture of your seat, how it feels underneath you or against your back. You might notice the temperature of the air circulating around you on your arms and face. So regardless of whether you are choosing the breath as your focus or choosing physical sensation as your focus, as your kavanah, we're going to sit for about 10 minutes, the next 10 minutes. And over those 10 minutes, our minds inevitably will wander off. We will miss the mark. We will drift from our intention. And hopefully we will at some point recognize that we've drifted away. There'll be an alert that comes up. Shofar sound to remind us. I invite you to notice whether you have any judgment about the fact that you have drifted away from intention. And if so, which might be very likely, see if you can meet that judgment with compassion. Transform that deen into rachamim. Move from the seat of judgment to the seat of compassion. And come back to your intention and rinse and repeat. So you set your intention. I'm going to focus on my breath for the next 10 minutes. Or I'm going to focus on physical sensations. Just explore all the different dimensions of temperature and texture and sensation and comfort or discomfort or pleasant or unpleasant or sound, the soundscape around me. And then our practice is going to be shifting from deen to rachamim when we stray from our intention. And I'll ring a bell to bring us back after 10 minutes. The last 5 minutes of our meditation, I want to invite us to experience our bodies themselves as shofarot, experience ourselves as vessels through which that divine breath is flowing. And if it's comfortable for you to inhale through your nostrils, through the narrowness of the nostrils, and experiencing that as the opening of the shofar, place of deen, the place of judgment. Let the wind enter there and fill your lungs and your belly. Channel of the shofar. And then exhale through the mouth, experiencing that as the larger opening of the shofar through which that ruach, divine breath, is flowing through a place, the place of rachamim. Each inhalation, an opportunity for us to remind ourselves that we are like the shofar, that we breathe from constriction that draws in the air into our lungs, into our belly, and then we release it through rachamim, through softening, through expansiveness, through creating more spaciousness within us. So the same breath that enters us comes out transformed, moving from deen to rachamim. The last 2 minutes of our meditation, if you're comfortable doing so, you're invited to just place one hand, or if you prefer, even both hands over your heart space. Physical expression of rachamim, so that as we experience ourselves as a shofar, transforming din to rachamim, constriction of the lungs, the chest, drawing in air, transforming it into rachamim, moving from the seat of judgment to the seat of compassion. Just looking to not to repress judgment, not to negate it, not to push it away, but just to sweeten it a little bit so that it can serve its function to wake us up. A few more breaths. Maybe a little smile on the face, turning the corners of the mouth up. See if that makes rachamim a little bit more accessible. If your eyes have been closed, I invite you to gently and slowly open them, come back to the group. Thank you so much for sharing in that practice. If there are any reflections you want to share in the chat, welcome to do so. I'm going to shift to, I put in the chat the link to the text again, but I'm going to go back to the text sheet for the second part of our practice. And that is a passage from the Babylonian Talmud, actually two passages we're going to look at on the theme of the two kinds of teshuvah, or turning. Probably familiar that the Hebrew word teshuvah, usually translated as repentance, stems from the root to turn. So there are two kinds of teshuvah in rabbinic tradition, at least. Teshuvah from yirah, from awe, and teshuvah me'ahava, from love. And we're going to look at a couple of passages, classic passages here on this. Don't have a lot of time to dig into to get too much into the nitty gritty. So we'll try to move through these texts so that we can move back into a little bit of meditation practice based on this teaching of teshuvah from ahava. So we're looking at Masechet Yoma, which is the part of the Talmud, Babylonian Talmud, that is dealing with the practices for Yom Kippur. Yoma means the day, Yom Kippur. And this is from Yoma 86a, in which Rabbi Chama Bar Chanina teaches, Gedolah Teshuvah, great is Teshuvah, great is repentance, as it brings healing to the world, as it is stated in the book of Hosea, Arapah Mishuvatam Ohavim Nidava. I will hear their backsliding, their turning back. I will love them freely, which implicitly teaches that repentance from sin is connected to healing. Teshuvah is connected to healing. Rabbi Chama Bar Chanina raises a contradiction between two verses. In Jeremiah 3, verse 14, it is written, Shuvu banim shovavim, return you backsliding children, implying that initially when one sins, when you sinned, it was only because you were backsliding, you were rebelling, you were turning against God. It was merely an act of immaturity and foolishness that could be ignored as if it had never happened. But it's also written in Jeremiah, a few verses later, I will heal your backsliding. Erapah mishuvotechem. and will hear your backsliding, implying that God will heal the sin from this point onward, and that they are still sinners. And of going forward, the healing will take place going forward. So it seems like a contradiction. On the one hand, it seems like there's one reference to backsliding, which is about how Teshuvah can accomplish something so that the backsliding was as if it never happened. The other has to do with Teshuvah, which doesn't undo the backsliding, but it forgives it and heals it going forward. So he says there are this is describing two different kinds of Teshuvah. Here, where everything is forgiven as if the Jewish people never sinned, that's referring to Teshuvah me'ahava, from love. There, where the sin is still remembered despite the forgiveness and repentance, it's referring to repentance out of yirah, fear. So it's a really interesting teaching here that, yes, Teshuvah that comes from yirah, from awe, from fear, from, and I'm going to pause the share for a second there just to bring it back to the practice we just engaged in. I know that when I, for example, if I'm in meditation, if I'm like, I start daydreaming or I start drifting off, or like I'm definitely not doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing, there is a moment of yirah, of, a little bit of a nudge there that prompts the opportunity for Teshuvah. So I might say that is, and if I come back from that might be from coming back from a place of yirah. And I'll say, all right, I'm going to go. I have to get back to my intention now. Okay. So that moment where I forgot and I got off track and I was perhaps not the self I wanted to be in that moment, that's still there. But if I wake up and I can treat that moment with rachamim, as we were just trying to do, is trying to say like, oh, as if we were taking a toddler who wandered away, instead of yelling at the toddler, get back here, get back on the sidewalk. If we were motivated by love and compassion for that toddler to go take their hand and bring them back on the path, say, come on back, let's get back on the path, let's walk along here. You can tell the difference there. Then the moving away from intention, if we're doing it through love, it's almost as if the moving away from intention was part of the practice. Because of course, you can't expect a toddler to stay on the path. The toddler is going to wander off and be distracted. It's natural. There's not much judgment there. And we're tempted to bring them back to the path out of love. And that's what, both are possible. And both are important, but there's a subtle distinction there about when we come back to our intention and treat our straying, or missing the mark, and of course, probably you know the Hebrew word for that's usually translated as sin, chet, literally means missing the mark. That's really quite different than the English word sin and the connotations that word has in the English language. Missing the mark. What's our attitude towards our missing the mark? What is our attitude towards others missing the mark? If we can transform our attitude to one of understanding the missing the mark as part and parcel of just being an imperfect human being, and part of life, we can treat that with a little bit of rachamim and come back from a place of love. Back to the screen share. So a little bit later, the next page, fact of Yoma, we get this teaching from Reish Lakish, who says also that Gedola Teshuvah, great is repentance, as the penitent's intentional sins, the Zedonot, are counted for him as unwitting transgressions, shgagot, mistakes, basically. Intentional sins are transformed or considered as unintentional mistakes. As it is stated, return Israel to Adonai your God, for you have stumbled in your iniquity. Shuvani Yisrael ad Adonai Elohecha ki chashalta ba'avonecha. You have stumbled in your sin. Gemara says here, wait a minute here. Isn't Zadon intentional sin doesn't that mean intentional sin? But the prophet calls it stumbling. Intentional sin is a stumble, implying that one who repents from even intentional sin is considered as though it was just a stumble, an accidental stumble in the transgression. How is that so? Didn't the same Rabbi, Reish Lakish himself, say, great is repentance as one's intentional sins that don't know are counted as merits, not just as accidentals, but actually can be a merit, as it is stated. And when the wicked turns from wickedness and does that which is lawful and right, that person shall live thereby. That's in Ezekiel. And all his deeds, even the transgressions, will become praiseworthy. The Gemara says, how do you reconcile that? The Gemara says, well, that's similarly here when one repents out of love, me'ahava, one's sins, even the intentional sins, are transformed into merits. And there, when one repents out of yirah, out of awe or fear, those sins are counted as unwitting transgressions. So we have a kind of hierarchy, which obviously is prioritizing teshuvah from ahava, which is not to say that teshuvah from yirah doesn't have its function, but we're trying to dig in a little bit to this distinction between yirah, the role of yirah. Of course, these are yamim noraim, days of awe, but we might also add on to that, these are days of cultivating ahava, cultivating love and rachamim. Just a little bit more text here. Some commentary here, Hasidic commentary on the verse in Psalm 34, verse 15. Sur meira va'aseh tov, b'kei shalom v'radfehu. Seek, turn from evil. Sur meira va'aseh tov, b'kei shalom v'radfehu. So we have an early Hasidic master, Rabbi Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov, who says it's well known that sur meira, turn from evil, that's motivated by yirah, fear. Step one in the process is engaging in or cultivating the capacity for a sense of yirah, of reverence, of awe, of fear. And that begins the process of turning away from that which is unwholesome, that which is alienating, that which distances us from God. But it's followed by va'aseh tov, do good, and that doing good is motivated by ahava. So they each serve a function. Yirah serves its function to motivate us to turn from the path that is not the path that our better angels or our better selves wants to follow. And love is what draws us on and keeps us turning towards good. One more Hasidic master, the first Ger Rebbe, says, and this is one of my favorite passages. I could sit all day on Yom Kippur with this. I think this is required reading. He writes, surely if one has committed, God forbid, an ugly sin and concentrates on sur meira, turn from evil, one is thinking about the ugliness that one committed, and a person exists where one's mind is. So if we just had sur meira, turn from evil, yes, we might turn from evil, but we're thinking about the quote evil. We're thinking about the ugliness or the distancing. A person's soul reposes entirely where one's mind is. So one is reposing in ugliness. One surely will not do teshuvah because one will be preoccupied with mental images of the sin, and it will block the emotional well springs of the heart, and it may drag that person down to depression, God forbid. We might say that this is the kind of distinction between deep shame and a healthy sense of guilt, which is to say that if we're just dwelling in the sin and obsessing about it, that we can become stuck. Even if someone has not committed a very crude sin, so that her mind will not be preoccupied with such ugliness and her emotional drive for improvement will not be blocked, it's still not worthwhile to dwell on the sin in an attempt to escape from evil. It's like someone trying to sweep away mud. She pushes the mud this way, pushes the mud that way. She remains with mud. I did sin, I didn't sin. What benefit does heaven have from that kind of preoccupation? While she was thinking about it, She could have been stringing pearls of Torah study and good deeds so that heaven could be befitted. Sur meira v'aseh tov. That's why we have the v'aseh tov. Turn from evil, don't think about it, and do good. If you've committed bundles of sins, commit bundles of good deeds instead. So it's another, to me, it's another frame for the same concept of moving from Din to Rachamim. Din and Yirah serve their function. They're the wake-up call. They're the signal that draws us back, the sound of the shofar, which draws us back into the process. But the process must move towards Rachamim and towards Ahava. So we're really cultivating both. We're cultivating Rachamim and Ahava here. So stop the share there for a second, see if there are any questions, and then let's go back to sitting together for a little bit. It's such a pleasure to have the opportunity to sit and basically soak in these themes for a few minutes and see if there are any questions or comments. Raise your hand by clicking on the reaction button. And if not, that's just fine. So for the last 15 minutes or so, I'm going to invite us to move into an extended, what we call a blessing practice, an opportunity for us to cultivate Rachamim and cultivate Ahava towards ourselves, towards others, towards the world. It's a practice that you could certainly use at any point, and at any time. It's evergreen, but particularly during the month of Elul and the Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, the 10 days of turning, and especially in those intermediate days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So again, you might want to deliberately, intentionally, mindfully, consciously reset your body in place. Okay, I'm turning practice. I'm going to set my intention once again, just to be aware of my body, sensation, and sound, or just to be aware of the breath rising and falling, inhalation arriving, and breath turning around within us to exhalation. Maybe you want to stay with that image of our body as a shofar, with the nostrils being the narrow entry point and the mouth being the place where the breath can exit and exhale, place of Rachamim. And you can close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so, or just bring awareness inward. Turning from the outside world to the refuge within us. And I'll offer a few phrases of blessing, which you can use and follow, or you can adapt as you like. There's nothing written in stone about these blessings. And we're going to begin simply by offering ourselves, taking a little bath in Rachamim, and offering ourselves loving kindness, noticing whether that may be difficult for some of us to receive. And that's fine too. Just engaging in an experiment here. What does it feel like to be on the receiving end of compassion? So the phrases I'll offer, 4 parts. May I be blessed with chesed, or may I be blessed with love. May I be blessed with rachamim. May I be blessed with compassion for myself. May I be blessed with simcha. May I be blessed with joy. May I be blessed with shalom. May I be blessed with peace. Chesed, rachamim, simcha, shalom. Love, compassion, joy, peace. So we'll spend 2 minutes mentally offering ourselves those qualities. May I be blessed with chesed, with love. May I be blessed with rachamim, with compassion. May I be blessed with simcha, with joy. May I be blessed with shalom, with peace. Continue offering that to yourself for a minute. Noticing any resistance to receiving those qualities. Any thoughts or feelings of being unworthy of them or fearful of receiving them. Not judging that resistance, just letting it be. Can I receive love? Can I let myself receive compassion? Can I let myself receive joy? Can I let myself receive shalom? And now I want to invite you to call to mind and visualize in your mind anyone in your life who it's very easy for you to love. Beloved friend or partner, child, someone who's still with us or not. And offer them the same blessings. May you be blessed with chesed. May you be blessed with rachamim, with compassion. May you be blessed with simcha, with joy. May you be blessed with shalom, with peace. Staying with that image as if they were sitting right there with you. And they can hear these words and they can look into your eyes as you say, may you be blessed with chesed, with love. May you be blessed with rachamim, with compassion. May you be blessed with simcha, with joy. May you be blessed with shalom, with peace. Smiling as you offer that blessing to your loved one. Now offering the same blessings to the 36 folks who are here right now, double chai. Sensing their presence wherever they are. Sharing in this practice together. May you be blessed with chesed, with love. May you be blessed with rachamim, with compassion, with mercy. May you be blessed with simcha, with joy. May you be blessed with shalom. May you be blessed with peace. And finally, as we sit here this evening, 16th of Elul, let's call to mind and hold in our hearts all the beings on this planet, this endangered planet, the planet itself. Feeling a sense of connection and kinship with all peoples. In places where there is comfort and places where there is suffering right now. Recognizing ourselves as part of this web of being and life on this earth, and offer them, all of them, the same blessings. May you be blessed with chesed, of love. May you be blessed with rachamim, with compassion. May you be blessed with simcha, with joy. May you be blessed with shalom, with peace, with wholeness. Staying with that blessing and that sense of connection as we approach this anniversary of the creation of humankind on this planet in our calendar. Cultivating rachamim, transforming our judgments into compassion and love and connection and healing. Not just listening for the shofar, but actually being the shofar of rachamim and ahava, of love. Praying that all the missteps, all the human missteps of individuals and governments, through Teshuvah, through the power of turning from love, might be transformed into merit, might lift up all of us and redeem this world. Final blessing for all beings. May you be blessed with chesed, with love. May you be blessed with rachamim, with compassion. May you be blessed with simcha, with joy. May you and all of us be blessed in this new year with shalom, with peace, with wholeness, with connection. And when you're ready, slowly, slowly, if your eyes have been closed, begin to just allow them to open. A few deep breaths into the belly. Maybe a little smile. You can rub your hands together. Come back into the space. And I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to do this. It's really such a gift to really immerse in that, not just the ideas and concepts of the season, but to actually notice these things happening within us, and to do that in community. It's really a great gift. Very much looking forward to being in person for the second day Rosh Hashanah mindfulness service with Rabbi Julie and Cantor David. It's really been a joy and a blessing to get to do that the last couple of years, but it has not been synchronous. It has not been on Rosh Hashanah, and it has not been together in community. I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm hoping to see many of you there. And I'm going to put the link to the short sheet once again in the chat box. I'm also going to put my email in case anybody would like to reach out. Many of you probably already know, but in case you don't, the organization that I work with, the Institute for Jewish Spirituality, offers a meditation every day on weekdays, Monday through Fridays at 12:30 till 1, which I generally host, different teachers every day. I'm grateful that BJ includes that in the calendar so people are aware of it, but you're always welcome. It's on a drop-in basis. You can join us anytime, 12:30 every day. They're also streamed and recorded on the IJS YouTube channel, so you can always, if 12:30 is not convenient for you, you can always participate at a time that is convenient. So I see that we're at time, and I just want to wish everyone a Shana Tova, Umutuka, a good and sweet year. And thanks so much for sharing this with me.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov, everyone. Be well.